We are live. This is the market update. This is the Strait of Hormuz edition market update. I'm your host, Bill Noble. Well, the Strait of Hormuz is trending, and that's how you know it doesn't matter. In case you don't know what that is, that's a geographic area in the Persian Gulf where 20% of the world's oil flows through, and everybody thinks the Iranians are going to shut it down, make their biggest customer, the Chinese, mad, and have no money. Yeah, I don't think so. That would be the quickest path to having the regime topple if they have no money for whatever welfare state they have, or whoever they have to pay to stay in power. So the issue is not the Strait of Hormuz. Now, what the issue is the wall of worry. So what are we worrying about today? First it was they were going to use a nuke. I thought the Orange Man was going to use a nuke. Then it was, well, we'll worry about it in 2 weeks. Then, oh my God, he did it now, right? And then, oh my God, oil's going to go to 120. Like first oil was going to 300, right? That was the conservative commentators, your Alex J and those guys. Then the investment banks, of course, those nitwits had to weigh in and said 120, 150 worst case. So it's not going there because every time those characters all get together and say the same thing, it's wrong. Like the recession forecasts, they'll never live that down. Okay, so they have 150 and I had 80 and maybe 94 if it was a disaster. Most likely the premium zone on the daily chart at 80. I haven't seen anything go through the premium zone. The Lux Algo premium zone on a daily chart. I have not seen one instrument go through that. Okay. So with that said, oil is not the problem. I mean, it might be trending. You might have a fear trade. It's a geopolitical situation. And I don't know everything. But what I do know is about the nature of bottoms. Okay. So what's a bottom feel like in the market? Is everybody like, it's a bottom? Of course not. Bottoms are like fear. And oh my God, it's going to go to zero any minute. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wait, it didn't go to zero. What happened? Oh, gee, maybe I better buy this thing. Oh my God, they just did a reclaim above support. Wait, there's good news on the tape, or it didn't go down on bad news? See what I'm saying? The market climbs the wall of worry, right? I was worried about it last week when nobody was worried about it. Now everyone's waking up in the morning going, oh my God, I better Google the Strait of Hormuz. I went to get gas the other day. There's nobody there. Nobody there. No line, nothing. Just normal traffic. Now everyone's like, oh, wow. Why there's this thing about oil. Oh, please. Right. Now, what they should be looking for is Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, some hot layer ones, SEI, any layer one that's moving. Right. Why? Well, because how are the Iranians going to fight back? Well, they're going to hit, we have people sheltering in place at U.S. bases. The Strait of Hormuz. No, that's not how they're going to do it. They're going to do cyber, right? They're very good at it. Here's a story about cyber. So back, Edward S. talked about this. So we developed this kind of cool program that slowly slowed their computers that made their nuclear equipment, just was a little off, it's like, I can't figure out what the cake needs. It's just off a little bit. Right. Okay. And then the blue and white got a hold of it and they made it obvious. They tried to just blow it all up. Right. And of course that didn't work. Then the Iranians took the code and mailed it back to us by taking $5 out of everybody's bank account at Bank of America or something like that. They took the code and they mailed it back to us. So these guys are capable. And even if they're not capable, the Russians owe us one. Putin is not happy. We don't know what he's going to do. The North Koreans will do anything if you pay them. They're all over crypto. They're everywhere. Don't click on anything. Don't click on anything. Right? So they're going to fight back where no one thinks they're going to fight back. Everyone's going to go fill their gas tank up today, and they should. But ironically, because people are not stupid, there was actually a line at the cash machine today because, something's going to happen, right? They're not going to do nothing. They're going to do something. And even if they don't do it, are you ready? The blue and white might do it, right? Because the blue and white has to keep this going somehow. They say they want it to be over, but I don't think they do, right? They wanted us to blow them off the face of the earth. And how you know that? Because they kept hitting them after we hit the reactors. They kept right on hitting them. It's like, wait a minute, folks, that's it. That was the knockout punch. We're done. And even if it wasn't the knockout punch, everyone declare victory and leave. And they kept hitting them. Okay. So the guys in the Middle East want to fight. What else is new? And I would imagine that after everyone gets done Googling the Strait of Hormuz, we're absolutely done with this. In a way, we're done. Because we're not going to have $10 gasoline by July 4th. And we'll go through it, the news. But the simple fact of the matter is they're going to have the Russians, the payback for the last thing in Eastern Europe. The Russians are going to give them super duper hypersonic air defenses, like the kind of stuff that can hit aircraft carriers from very far away, which there's no defense against. It's going to happen, right? I mean, the Russians manufacture this stuff at a massive rate. So do the Chinese. So the Iranians are like, oh, wow, look at this. I get to go shopping. They're not going to shoot at us. Why would they shoot at us? They got cargo loads full of stuff coming in from the Russians and the Chinese. They have a whole new group of friends. I mean, you don't necessarily need to go nuclear if you've got Russian hypersonics to defend yourself. I mean, the Israelis couldn't defend themselves from whatever stuff that the Iranians figured out how to hack together on their own, all the way up and all the way down. I mean, some of that stuff went boom. Imagine what happens if you got Russian stuff in there. So we're done with this. I mean, yeah, there could be some noise and, an oil tanker turned around. Are you kidding? Same oil tanker is going to turn around and go right back out again. An oil tanker turned around. If the oil tanker sank, then you worry about it. Again, everything that they've told you about this from the beginning. Why should they stop now? Now, again, how does this go back to crypto? Why are we selling crypto again? We're selling crypto at 100 or 100K. ETH's at 2,200 on its way to zero. They liquidate $1 billion. Ninnies get wiped out. Everybody out, right? They sell to Michael Saylor at 104 and they buy it all back at 100. How nice, right? Meanwhile, everyone's destroyed. Everyone's wrecked. Everyone gives up, sells their position out. Crazy. Absolutely nuts, right? Nuts. All right, so let's go through the geopolitical news. Let's go through the economics. Sorry. Basically, let's go over everyone who's wrong. Because I think the right thing to do is to have crypto climbing the wall of worry and adding to positions potentially on volume. Okay, so nobody can buy a house, right? Nobody can buy a house. Now, you may not have a housing crash, but the market is locked. So the market's not functioning properly. And if the bond market doesn't like what's going on here, that could get worse. This has to bring in the Fed. This is it. They have to bring the Fed in. They have to come in now. They have to come in with high-powered money, right? Just the uncertainty over oil brings in the Fed. In the 18 hours since we hit them, 2025 recession odds went from 27 to 35%. Meanwhile, odds of a circuit breaker crash rose from 14 to 19. Okay, great. So that's how you know it won't happen, right? Everybody thinks oil's going up and there's going to be a recession. The last recession, Bitcoin went from 77. Can you believe it? It was even down there. Went from 77 to 100 and decoupled from NASDAQ. Crazy. Everyone's like, oh my God, oil's going to go to 100. We're going to be in a recession. Oil was at 100 when they moved into Eastern Europe. You might get a spike in oil. I mean, oil is telling you that it's actually, and I read this over the weekend, that oil at 75 or 80 has $20 worth of geopolitical risk premium already priced in. Like this whole mess is priced into oil, allegedly. You don't know that. But who's going to mess with oil? Why would you drag the Chinese into this before you've got all the Chinese weapons? You don't want to do that. You want to get China's landed a plane. They're going to land more planes, right? And it's nothing we're going to do to stop that, right? Yeah, what? Israel's going to come buzzing over the border in their toy jets to run into Vladimir's hypersonics? I don't think so. And again, why are we selling crypto again? Why are we selling crypto? I don't know. I just don't. Okay, so now we want regime change. Make Iran great again. Okay, yeah, that's funny. That's a good distraction on Twitter while they backpedal their way out of this. And I love this. Israel announces new list of top regime targets in unprecedented attack. Putin meets with Iranian foreign minister. Russia says they're ready to help. Oh, Israel says we're done. You're damn right you are. All right. Yeah. Now he says, yeah, we're very close to ending our goals here. Yeah. Okay. Because the Russians are coming. Right. There's a new FAFO. He just met it. Right. And that orange man's fine with that. It's like, okay, we're declaring victory and leave. See ya. Super tankers turn around in Strait of Hormuz and then turn right back around again. When two countries are shooting at each other, it's a hot war. And last I looked, you needed to ask Congress about that. And he's right. Okay. You can launch a cruise missile at a Houthi harbor. But when you start taking out somebody's nuclear program with a 37-hour flight out of Missouri, that's a no-no. And that's why there isn't going to be any more of this, because he's not going to Congress and declaring war. He's going to get out of there as soon as he can if he has any sense. And if he doesn't, then he's completely compromised. That's period. And of course, I mean, this doesn't make the case for Bitcoin and a whole new financial system, a whole new everything system. And we're selling it, which is what happens at the bottom. The people who love it, right? Everyone's out. The people who love it are out and they're short. Excuse me. So everyone out. Everyone bearish, and then when the real bottom happens, everyone's short. That's it. And that's the people who love it. So I love crypto. I want to own it forever. I want to hodl. I want to be the guy that bought Bitcoin at 30 cents and hodl forever. Whoops, it went down 5%. I'm out. Oh, I'm bearish. Oh, I Googled the Strait of Hormuz. Now I'm short. U.S. Embassy in Qatar urges Americans to hide under their desk. See, I told you it's a Cuban Missile Crisis, right? Hide under your desk. Yeah, that's yeah, okay. Okay, so the outlook for oil is actually bearish. They're pumping it like there's no tomorrow. So if there isn't some event, it's probably going to 60, which is funny, right? If something's supposed to go up and it doesn't, what's it going to do? It's going to go down. Yeah, okay. Yeah, right. As world braces for retaliation. Folks, if the announced wars, announced retaliation doesn't happen, right? Remember how the orange man was like, we'll do it in 2 weeks, and then he did it in 2 days? That's war. That's fighting, right? You don't say, well, any day now, we're going to retaliate. No. You might see cyber, not today, though, not while those aircraft carriers are over there, but, you're going to see it eventually. A tsunami of global liquidity is seeking a safe haven. What you going to do out there, boys? How come you're selling Ethereum, right? That Ethereum ETF, they loved it at 2,800, but at 2,200, they had to get out. They're all going to sell this morning, and you just take it from them. BlackRock's going to take it all. The big, beautiful land grab. So I guess we're going to increase the supply of housing so BlackRock can buy it all and rent it to people who come here from overseas. I don't know, but is there any end to this ineptitude? No. You know what ends the ineptitude? I'll tell you. You're like, what does this have to do with crypto? The ineptitude ends with 250 Bitcoin. And this whole market just absolutely mooning. Like some robot says, hi, I can invest your money in DeFi. I can help you trade. Boom. Just like the Circle IPO, right? Everyone thought it was an idiot with these crypto stocks. Forget about it. Once that starts, you know, they'll be like, wow, we should really get our act together when people are dumping treasuries to buy Bitcoin, right? Michael Saylor, I have the PowerPoint slide. Talks to Jordan Peterson, says war is what gets everyone who doesn't think they have to do it off the sidelines. Trump already pivoting towards regime change. You know, Doomberg is unbelievable. Payback is coming. Irreparable harm to the treaty. China rips everybody. A weakened Iran can still inflict pain. Yeah, they have cyber, but, you know, the Israelis allegedly built a base on their turf or whatever. And they had no air defenses, whatever. All right. Okay. Okay. Oil shock recede. Yeah. Okay. The wall of worry. Europe leads Europe. Now this bond market thing could be a problem. Everyone's Googling oil. They should be Googling bonds. Okay. This drags on and we got to start spending money on defense. That's going to be a bond market problem. And that could trip housing. And, you know, that would be like if our bond market starts teetering, that's when you get hit with cyber, right? You know, nobody wants to punch a boxer when the hands are up, right? But if you drop your hands, that's when you get hit. I just dropped the big, beautiful on the crypto market. Have a nice day. That's a meme. Meanwhile, Mike just carries on with a lot of Bitcoin. Ridiculous, right? He must be wrong. How many companies have a path to Bitcoin sovereignty? Okay. You know, I don't even know. Do you know what MetaPlanet even does? I don't, right? Actually went to Harvard. It's just going to keep buying, right? Right. And then all of a sudden, you're going to have all these imitators. You already have it, right? States are doing it. Federal government's going to have to do it. They're going to have to change the conversation in the Senate. Cynthia Loomis will be only too happy to help them do that. They got to get this guy, Thomas Massie, off the tape. They got to get the left off the tape talking about, you know, impeaching them and all that stuff. They're going right back to crypto. Right back to crypto, right? So Mike just bought another 245 million. Breaking news here from the Eagle King. Kind of just all sit around on Monday. And it's just like I told you. Mike buys at 105. The market makers fill the orders. And then when they get the chance, they smack it. They liquidate everybody and they buy the spot Bitcoin back. That's how it works. They go, okay, Mike, here's all of our Bitcoin. Here you go. Now we'll get everyone out and get everyone puking it and we'll take it from them. And round and round we go until the Chinese are done selling or until whoever is done selling. And that's that. That's it. And that's going to go on. And then one day it'll happen and they won't be able to get it back. They'll try to get it back and it won't work. This is why this guy can buy such huge amounts, because they can pull this stunt. And they got lucky this time. They got lucky with the last round of purchases when he paid 110 and they whacked it to 77. And every time he buys, it goes down because that's the only way market makers can get it back. But of course, that's why it just completely stopped at 99. At 99, at 98 something, it looked like it was going to go to 93. And of course it didn't, because there was a GAN line there. Everyone knew about it. They knew about it. And they're just like, okay, it's not going any lower. Let's cover. Bitcoin holds support. Doomers disappointed. Wow. You know what? They really want world war, don't they? Actually, you don't. You don't. World war means, food rationing, problems at the ATM, power grid. You don't want that. You just don't. Every bank and fintech wants DeFi under the hood. They sure do. They want a DeFi mullet. How funny is that? Right? They're going to hire Galaxy. Banks are going to hire Galaxy. Or banks are going to hire every crypto bro. And then they're going to come in and they're going to moon the governance token of any DeFi protocol that's worth it. And that includes layer ones. Right? They're going to buy truckloads of ETH. They're going to buy Sky, which used to be Maker. They're going to buy Uniswap. They're going to buy Aave. They're going to buy all this super boring stuff. They're going to buy Chainlink. They're going to do it all, right? And if something happens, they're going to have to adopt it in a hurry. And of course, that's the way it's going to be because, everyone thinks they have plenty of time until they don't. Okay, Cointelegraph hit by exploit. Don't click on anything. Metaplanet continues to buy. Powell talks this week. So Powell has a huge opportunity to do what people don't realize is the Fed's true power outside of high-powered money, which is rhetoric, right? All economists going through the statements. Oh, they took a word out. The Fed never used to do press conferences. They would do some subtle action in the bond market and send a signal, and the bond market, right, would adjust after the signal, and then they would call the Wall Street Journal, the bond desks, and say the Fed just cut rates or the Fed just raised rates. They would signal to the market through desks I used to work on. I mean, I remember the guy used to stand up and go, whatever it was, like overnight system or match sales, bond market jargon. I shouted out, right? They would do it after payroll numbers. They would do it when the economic data said, yeah, now we do it. That was way more fun and way more stressful. Now it's rhetoric. It's what he says at the press conference, and he's got this testimony. So they're going to say, Mr. Powell, how come you haven't cut rates? What's wrong with you? Whatever they're going to say. He's going to cut all that off. He's going to say exactly what we just said. I don't like what's going on with housing. Inflation appears to be reasonable. Geopolitical uncertainty is more scary than tariffs. And I'm leaning towards cutting rates because, worrying about tariffs is a lot worse. That is nothing compared to what this situation is. Fed's a part of the deep state. Deep state got what it wanted, so deep state cooperates. And you're going to have dovish rhetoric. You're going to hear the word dovish all week after Powell gets done. Powell is on CoinDesk. Powell is dovish now. Okay. Right? You need tomorrow's news today. That's what you need. Okay. So okay. So here's the Gann line, and we're kind of between a rock and a hard place, right? So this was the Gann line that held around 100. Very, very convenient. Now what you have is, Lux Algo trying to put resistance on top of the market. And it's doing that across the board. So ETH hit support. Now ETH is jammed between 2,200 and 2,400. What a shame about the 200-day moving average. What a shame. Okay. And Solana, again, Solana and ETH, they broke down. I mean, there's, now are we done with this? I hope so. Because if we're not, it's going to 100, right? I mean, the wall of worry. How tall is the wall of worry? Well, it's pretty tall. It'll get a lot taller if Solana goes to 100. Hoping to avoid such a thing. Now, on the 4-hour chart, there's a lot of good news, right? This 9 bottom looks very much like a bottom, and then they'll scare everybody later today, and then if it recovers, it'll be okay. This, to me, is the big shocker. I mean, they creamed XRP on a 4-hour chart. You got the 13 bottom, you got the 9 bottom. It doesn't look any better than that, honestly. You know, they get the nice reversal. And of course, it's not a reversal unless you get continuation. But it does have the wall of worry look to it, right? Hey, reversal. Oh, no. It's not going straight back to $3. Oh, God. That's scary. You know, you buy down here and you're like, oh, God, it's going to go to 0. No, it's not. No, it's not. Circle is worth $50 billion and XRP is below. It's getting it's not, forget about what Ripple's worth. They are hammering XRP. Remember, what did I tell you, right? The people who are bullish, everyone who paid, they didn't want the Circle at $30, but at $200 was much more, or $150 was much more attractive. Right? Those same people dumped their XRP. It's like, oh God, I gotta buy Circle at a 1,750 PE, but you know, XRP I'm gonna dump at 190. What are you talking about? Right? I mean, this is gonna be the made in America crypto, and Ripple is gonna go public, especially if stocks don't go down. Right? I mean, you know, stocks should go down, but if they don't, they're gonna be falling over themselves to IPO. Right? So Bitcoin hits the nifty little DeMark support here. I didn't even realize it, right? Go through 100, scare everybody. Whoop. Perfect looking correction. Perfect looking correction. Like A, B, and then this whole messy C, which is very typical, right? Corrections, you know, what do corrections do? They grind you down. They grind you. It's gonna turn around at any moment. Oh, I love this market. Oh, wait, I have to wait. Oh my God, I hate it now. I'm done. That's how bull markets work, right? Bored, bullish, bored, stopped out, bearish, short, up. And that's the market update. That's what just happened. The real shocker is what they did to ETH. Holy cow. You know, ETH had one of these support things down here. I mean, ETH had the 9 bottom, right? And they had to jam it down just for good measure. It's like, do a little check here, you know, snap the glove on. You guys like the 9 bottom? Okay. Let's do a little check. Let's Google the Strait of Hormuz and sell ETH at 2,200. You got to be kidding me. Like, they're selling it into an obvious fundamental shift. They're selling it into decent chart support. They're selling it into DeMark work. Now, can they rally it? That remains to be seen. But again, the market climbs the wall of worry. Now, what you don't want to see, to stop the comedy for just a minute, is you do not want to see a failed rally with any of these signals. With this signal on the daily, with the 4-hour signal on XRP, once you print the 9 bottom, you do not want to see a failed rally. No, that would be bad. But if you just have this like slumping, oh, I'm worried. Okay, that's constructive. That's constructive, right? Worry. We need more worry at this point because we're not shooting at them anymore. We already declared victory and leave. We already showed everybody how great our planes were. It's awesome, right? They flew 43 hours. Right. So what are they going to do? Wake up, guys, you flying 43 hours again? No, that's not happening. It's done. Right. And if anyone consider, of course, that would be extremely boring for the news media and for the Orange Man's Truth Social account. Right. So we have to just keep ratcheting up the rhetoric. And the more they ratchet it up, the more they're embarrassing themselves. And the more you think it's over, because we're not going to have $10 gasoline or $6 gasoline for July 4th. We're not having that. right? Everybody in New York, everybody in America is about to get out of school on the East Coast and head for vacation. Why do you think the Orange Man crushed oil on Memorial Day? He's not going to go do this. No way. Absolutely not. So we need a stock market crash. And that's the 250th birthday of America, plus or minus a year. We're going to celebrate. We're going to celebrate July 4th with oil at 110, like the investment banks say. Oh, okay. No, absolutely not. Matter of fact, this whole thing to me feels like contrived theater. We'll shoot at you. We'll blow up some stuff. You'll still keep your facilities. The Russians can go in there and do whatever. You couldn't even mount an air defense against, drones. So we'll see in 10 years. And even in that case, probably won't worry about it because the whole thing will be done by AI and robots. So, this idea of like, our missiles are going to pass each other in the sky, that may be over. It's done. Right now, if you take that approach and you start looking at this thing, like, first of all, if you're wrecked, you might be less depressed. Right? That's the first thing. Then the second thing is, if you got any money, you can dump losers or dump stuff that doesn't work or that's obviously not going to work and be like, hey, can we have layer one season? Bessent wants $4 trillion in stable coins in the market. I leave you with a question. He wants $4 trillion. It's 200 billion now. He wants 4T in the stablecoin system. The only way that's been traded is Circle's IPO and maybe a little bit in Coinbase stock. That's it. 4T. What benefits from 4T being injected into the system? The way you inject barbecue sauce into your turkey before you deep fry it in Texas. It's about to get spicy in crypto, and we're all bearish. All right, so hopefully I put that to bed today. And I guess if the world blows up, I'll start over tomorrow. But again, the market climbs the wall of worry. We will see you tomorrow.